Okay, thanks. So, hey everyone, hope you are all well. Tonight, we finally start ending this process that started, I think, a couple of months ago, maybe in March. I have no idea how time works anymore. But today, we're taking the first steps in finally selecting our central admin, or whatever we decide to call it. And as we talked about earlier, today we will have three things. Wait, let me just open the document so I can see it, and I can also share it, I think. Just 1 second. Oh, Gabriel, can you please allow me to share?
Sorry, man.
No problem. Wait, I think it's this one. Okay, so today, wait, is this the one? No, this is not. Wait, just 1 second.
Vocês também.
Okay, sorry, I opened the wrong documents. Okay. So, I think it's this one. So today we will do the first part of our selection process. As we talked about, it was going to be an open discussion for proposals. We have some proposals here. Not many, but we have a few, which I think are good suggestions here. But today we have a discussion of the proposals, and we have also to decide the period that the chairperson will have for working as chairperson. And we also have the negative lottery, right? So we have three things to do today. We will discuss the suggestions. We will decide on the time frame for the first chairperson, because I think we were divided between 3 and 6 months, if I recall correctly. Just one thing, I don't have the chat. And I think we also, yeah, so it's this, it's the discussing the suggestions, doing the determination of the time frame, and then the negative lottery. As we've discussed also, the negative lottery, it's done in 3 parts. First, someone is decided if they want to be, first, there's a decision amongst all members, there's a draw of all members, which even includes inactive members. And then this person will be chosen by a lottery, and then this person has a time frame to decide if they are willing to accept the position, and to what might be necessary to take on the function, and the period of transition so that they may take the function. Initially, we discussed that to avoid further delay, that instead of drawing one person, because that person could take, I don't know, 5 days to answer, and then we would have to draw another person, this process would be going forever. We talked about drawing 3 to 5 people, so we could have backups in case the first one decides not to take the position. But what I was thinking after our meeting, and I don't think there's going to be any opposition to this, but if anyone wants to oppose, you're of course more than welcome. I think we could like simply draw all names. So we will have a list of order of all the names on STP. We can put them on, this was an idea that Gabriel suggested that I thought was good. We can put all those names in a spreadsheet, and then we can just put if we accept or if we don't accept in this list. So what I think we could also do, and to spice things up, but also because it will be a bit long, we'll have to draw out, I think, 39 names, is we could start our meeting by the drawing process, and then we discuss the suggestions that we have. So I wonder if you guys are okay with this changing of the order.
You don't want to build up the suspense to keep it at the very end.
No, I want to bring the suspense right to the beginning.
I'm down. I think that makes a lot of sense.
So, okay, man, this is a big list. So can everybody see the names?
So as you select the names, I'll add them to a spreadsheet in the order of your selection then.
Okay, that's great. And I'll remove the name as well, we'll add. So, I mean, it's a pity that we don't have.
You don't need to remove. I think as you select them, they leave the list.
I have to, there's an option to remove. I can keep them or remove them.
Okay.
But before we start, it's a pity we didn't do like a betting process, you know?
We could have bet money on top of.
Yeah, I think next time we should try to get a sponsor. Everybody's being sponsored by a betting company, so why not us? But okay, let's start with the first name. Man, I'm nervous. Oh, wow. Congratulations. Okay, so Dennis was the first one selected. You do not have to say right now if you want to take on this position.
Though if you do, you will spare us a lot of trouble.
Yeah, you will spare us a lot, but we can keep the suspense.
That's amazing. I knew there's a reason I showed up for this meeting.
Oh, Yasha. Yasha's not here? Okay. Next one.
The math front is feeling lucky today.
Ooh. Man, this list is huge. Is Vitor here? Third place. No, fourth. Case studies representing also. Oh no. 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 Okay, let's pretend that didn't happen. Though it's nice to know that I have some power by being the top of the list. A friend. You know, Renzo was joking about the Jequiti, but he's not here. Oh, damn. Okay, Germano. You know, Germano would be good. He's a uni organizer, so
Another mathematician.
oh, okay. Felipe
Who was the last one?
Felipe Taufer.
On the spreadsheet, I think we need a yes and a no checkbox, because how do we know if they've not accepted or just didn't fill in the checkbox?
Okay.
Well, if they didn't fill in. Ah, okay, okay.
You know, like if they just didn't
Yeah.
see the spreadsheet and they never checked it versus someone who said, no, I don't want to be.
No, yeah, I think it's
Okay, done it.
Travessia. Okay. Did you do the last one?
Luis, then Travessia.
No, there was Legume also.
Okay. skip
No,
them.
Legume. Ah, it was Luis, not.
Luis.
Yeah, yeah, sorry. Anna. Gabriel. I love the cheering. Miriam.
We should do this from time to time just for the sake of doing it, even if it doesn't select anything, just for.
You know, I'm legit like, this is chilling. There are like, whoa.
Oh, after Miriam, we haven't had anyone yet, right?
No, no. Now it's Carol. Yours was before Miriam.
Yes. We're almost
Rio,
halfway
Rio,
through.
Rio people. People from Rio.
Yeah, three cariocas.
Almost 4. Caio. Pedro.
You can also think, I mean, if we're doing the whole list and we're probably not going to use the whole list, I mean, it's useful because, let's say, if everyone wants informally somebody to be selected, they can all say no. Everyone who comes before can say no to give them a chance to say yes. But let's say somebody says yes before, we can still find a use for the list of everyone if we want, I guess.
Well, we had that idea that at least it was good to know people who were like on the group.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we can the information of yes, no, and didn't fill the list at all, like didn't say anything. Those are useful. I'm not sure if we want to do something with the people who don't answer for the next week, if it's already like a criteria for redoing the membership to the STP community or not. But
Well, at least we know like if we are going to count a quorum. Did you put Michael?
Yeah.
Man, this is tense. Cassia or Daniel? Cassia. Bruno.
Yeah.
Mark. Man, we've selected a bunch of people and it's like, there's a lot of people.
Yeah, we're on the 27th. No, or about the 24th now, out of 40.
We had 25.
Okay.
Well, at least
No, that makes sense. It's just because I didn't see which was the first number.
Reza.
There's a bit of a delay with the wheel. I don't see it spinning properly.
Ah, that's a pity. Andrea. That was like the middle. There's Legumi. Alan. Moscardi. Fernanda. Eduarda. Man, Vinicius and Hermano are like the same color. Vinicius. Maurice. Hermano. So who is going to be the undrafted
last.
person? Yeah, we could give a prize. Raquel. A prize for the last one.
Next Monday is the 1st.
Yeah. No, the 31st, no? I think it's the 31st.
31st. Yeah. No, just so I can add here the.
Thiago. Mônica. So Joe, so someone will have to tell Joe that he was the last one. Not sure he will be sad, but
Okay, guys, so with this, now we open 1 week for people to add their yes or no, right?
yes. So let me get the. Let me get the. You put it on where the link?
It's here on our chat.
Ah, okay. I thought it was on the.
I'm gonna add there as well.
Aye. Okay. So just so people can see. This is the current STP lottery rankings. Man. 43 draws. No, 41.
40. There should be 40.
I think it's 41, no? Oh, yeah. Okay, so you just add as you posted it on the. Okay, great. And then people will just see, and then we have a week to have the results. And then after we have like the yeses and the noses, we can start, the person can present the what they need, how long, the transition period, if they can start now or not. And I think now we can go back to the suggestions, right? Do we have any pending stuff regarding the lottery? Anyone want to add anything?
Well, in the very small chance that everyone says no, what is our plan?
I think the first one, drawn, is the. Just kidding.
By default.
It was very convenient that you were the one who asked. I think we can do the following. My suggestion is, if everyone says no, we can go over the list like once again in order. Maybe people will change their mind and.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
Very
someone
interesting.
will say yes, but I'm just wondering.
Yeah. I think, like, for example, if everyone said no, maybe I would say yes because, I don't know. I don't know, but just an idea. We can let this as like a countermeasure. If anyone is against this, like, we do this first decision. If nobody decides, next week we put it again, and everybody will have to vote with the thoughts that nobody wanted to be that position. So we will truly be a Platonist society, a society where no one wants to govern. And then we'll see who wants to get back into the cave.
But I mean, is there any situation in which somebody who said they didn't want to do it would do it? There is no, right? We're not going to assign somebody.
No, I don't think we're going to sign. I think my suggestion was that we put it to a second round of decisions. No? Like, with the knowledge that nobody accepted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we would just have to hope somebody changed their mind, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking like in the idea, like, well, if nobody wants this position, maybe people will think about it differently.
Yeah, it's a good, I see it. It is added information. No.
Yeah. Okay. So we have that for that part of the meeting is done. The wacky part of the meeting. Now we get to the strategizing part of the meeting. And we have here 3 suggestions. We could also add other things if people didn't want to write, but they have an ideas. But basically, as of now, we have 3 suggestions. I think the first one I'm going to address is, it was actually in the second suggestion. I just put it as a third because I think it's a standout item, which is purchase STP Zoom account, right? I think this is something that we've discussed. It's currently, how much is it currently costing?
No.
Do you know, Gabriel?
How much a Zoom account costs?
Yeah.
Os taskers, os correios de taskers,
I think it's
sim.
the
Os
pro
tuios-
account is $14 a month or $150 a year.
Mhm.
Vago.
So I guess we could like do a round of,
But there's something about it says like if you pay up to I know, okay. If you have up to 4 licenses, that's how much each license costs. Yeah.
Depois ponga
Okay.
título, barrito.
so I think we can, I mean, does anyone have any dissenting views? Because currently we are using Gabriel's account, which is good because we don't pay, but at the same time, I think there are 2 downsides. First, if he is not able to attend and if he has a meeting on a Monday, we are left without our Zoom account. And I also think that one good idea of having a group Zoom account is that people could use the Zoom account to schedule meetings between people in the group or with people talking things about the group. So I think it might be something that could be useful for the group as a whole.
Can I just ask something? We're not, just so I add this to the disclaimer on the list. People who, for the next week, do not tick either yes or no. Are they automatically, are we gonna then say, okay, they didn't, they're out of they don't want to be part of the STP WhatsApp group, we remove them, or these 2 procedures are not connected?
I have a suggestion for this. We can send a message like we can do a message like, we did a group, we decided like we want to know if you're still, we could send a message which is like, are you still interested in participating in the group?
Yeah, so if they don't answer, we go after them privately and say, hey,
Yeah.
do you want? Yeah.
Like, and it's just a simple message, and if they don't answer that, or if they say no, we take them out and all's fine.
Okay.
Okay. So
think- Can I just add one thing on that?
sure.
Yeah, I think the reaching out makes sense for the WhatsApp group, but I do think if no one responds and we have to make a decision like voting or something for the CA or anything else, they should be counted out of quorum immediately.
Yes, agree. I think their name should not be counted for the quorum. And I think we will have a quorum established vote from this.
Mhm.
I think my name is not in the list. No, no, it's not possible. Didn't we?
I added her for sure in the.
I was wondering the same thing. I thought maybe she was under a different name like me.
Oh, man.
Not say her name if she's.
So I have a suggestion. Maybe we draw a number for Fatima and we put her on
that number.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
You know, I think it was my fault. I was going to, because she was at the end of her list and I was going to put her on the alphabetical list when we were putting on the list.
Mhm.
It was sorry, Fatima. Unless, I mean, I think we could do this, right? So,
Fatima, is that okay with you?
yeah.
If we do like a
Yeah, I'm laughing. Just like put my name at the end or somewhere, but just don't get out of the group. Like, come on.
No,
Oh my
no,
God.
Fatima. No. So I'm really sorry, Fatima. It was my fault. We were putting the names, and I was like, because Gabriel, I remember this specifically. Gabriel put your name because we were like listing, and I was putting them in the order, and then I messed up. I'm really sorry. And come on, you've been like one of the most present people in all these discussions on CA. No, you're not going to be. You're not going to be. Okay, so let me do the number draw. So we have
Put it
like
between 1 and 40.
41, because
Yeah,
there's 41
Oh,
slots.
yeah. Okay. Okay, so let's.
I just Googled random number generator and found a nice little guy that's big.
Giga calculator. Okay, we want 1 to 41, right?
Yeah.
35. Man, that was a low. That's a low number.
I was so hoping it would be like 1, but it's
Then Dennis would be happy. So 35 right after Eduardo.
yeah, better.
Okay. So 1,000 apologies, Fatima. Please forgive me for my mistake. But let's get back on track then. Yes, there are alternatives to Zoom. Sorry, there are alternatives to Zoom. Like I don't know this big blue button. I think Jitsi is a bit unstable. At least when I tend to use it, it's generally unstable. But of course, it's something we can decide on.
Can't we change the number 3 proposal to just purchase/adopt STP's own meeting software, and then it can be Zoom, Blue, whatever. Then they yeah, I'm not sure we can record with Meets anyway.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. I think you don't get to record if you don't have a pro account. I think this is something that we can put to the group. We can put a vote, which is very simple, right? The CA can organize it, whoever they are. Like, what does it mean? Communicative.
Meeting tool,
Yeah.
online meeting tool.
Okay. So I think we can put that to a vote to the group, right? After we have a CA. I think everyone sees that this is a matter of urgency for the CA to deal with, right? Second suggestion. I'm going to present, but John can speak more of it, but I think it was a very good idea. I want to add. I think it was John, right? You said it was you. To introduce the stack facilitator system into Monday meetings. And the CA, they will not necessarily be the one who will organize this part of the meeting, but they will organize the process of there being someone that will facilitate the Monday meetings. So, John, if you could perhaps explain your proposal a bit, so we can have it on record for the eventual CA.
Yeah. So stack is a method I've used in other organizations from across the lefty ideological spectrum. So it's a pretty like non-denominational meeting method. And the basic gist of it for anyone that's not familiar with stack is you have someone who's a facilitator. People raise their hands or whatever method to indicate they want to speak. And the main method of it is the facilitator will keep a check mark or some tally system by each person's name. And so whoever has spoken least will move up the list. So if I've spoken 3 times and Raphael hasn't spoken at all, even if I raise my hand right before Raphael, that bumps Raphael above me. And I think this is really useful for a number of reasons. I think there's kind of obvious equitability stuff that goes on with that. But one thing I've noticed is, you know, conversations aren't the same throughout. Like there's ups and downs in conversations in our discussions. And one of the things that happens is when things get like really exciting and stuff, people start talking longer, people start going back and forth more, and everyone raises their hand at once, which is cool. Like you want people to be involved, but if someone that hasn't spoken at all raises their hand at that exciting time, I think that they should get to jump in right away. There's a lot of reasons for that. It adds more to the conversation. It gets folks who may not be who don't interface as easily into the group to be plugged in. And I think one of the main things that the CA would be able to do would be to track participation through the stack method. And the basic idea there is, you know, there's no like actual information on any given speaker. The system would be simply like you record total number of people at a meeting, and then how many people spoke 0 times, how many people spoke 1 time, and so on. That gives us a way, and maybe if we decided we could have like a typology where like this was one kind of presentation, or this was a small group meeting or an org meeting, if we want that. I don't even know if that's necessary. But the idea would be we could kind of see in the long run how involved people are, and kind of have a way to kind of quantify participation without requiring any sophisticated metrics or collecting personal information in a weird way, or relying on anecdotal, like, yeah, that conversation seems busy. You know, like it gives us a way to actually kind of track things a bit more. Another aspect of Stack is using time limits. Often it's 3 minutes, it can go up to 5. I think that should be left to the facilitator depending on whether or not the conversation warrants it, because there's plenty of conversations where realistically only a few people are participating and you can't really force participation. You can't suddenly make people talk. The main thing is like, if lots of people want to speak, we should be conscious of and enforce time limits to make sure that everyone can be involved. Yeah, I put a motivation for this at the bottom of the page. It's you know, not short, but it is in bullet form, so it doesn't take like, you know, it's not super dense. Yeah, and you know, the details of this, you know, can be hashed out later. But I just wanted to bring this up. Any questions, anything like that?
Do we have a stack for this moment? Sorry, but please, Gabriel.
First of all, I want to say I'm all for anti-Gabriel measures. I think I do represent a lot of the bad practices, but other than that, I also wonder if it's, I mean, that the central admin would take on this might not be necessary. There might be a different solution, which I think whoever takes on the position can decide, which is whoever does the presentation needs to moderate everyone else's participation, in the sense that if you're presenting, it's also up to you to include everyone and use this method. So, you know, if you're presenting, you take on these additional responsibilities for that meeting, rather than having the admin also moderating every meeting. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't think we need to decide that, but it's just an option.
So clarifying, I'm not saying that the admin should facilitate. I'm saying the admin is responsible for making sure there's a facilitator.
Yeah, sure.
And the second thing is, generally speaking, you don't have the presenter do it, so the presenter can focus on responding to questions and stuff. So one person be focused on, because part of the idea of facilitator is sometimes it's very mechanical. It's just keeping stack. But like I said in the motivation, sometimes it's like reaching out to people in DMs and saying like, do you have any questions? It's making sure it's asking questions during the meeting to try to like make it more outward facing. If the conversation's getting highly technical or esoteric, it's kind of like their responsibility to try to like remind the room that there are other people involved and we're trying to face outwards. But that will kind of depend on the conversation. If we have a meeting of 4 people who are all STP hardcores and we're like going off on the weeds on, the relationship of Badu and Bogdanov or whatever, right? That's not really appropriate to have a facilitator doing that. But if we've got a meeting of 15 people, half of whom aren't regulars, then it suddenly changes. So yes, but the CA would not be responsible for actually doing the facilitation. They would just be responsible for making sure there's a facilitator, and if there's any strategy ahead of time to kind of like make sure that gets planned out.
I think Dennis had his hand up, but I don't know.
Sorry. Yeah. I guess my question is that because the central admin is not expected to be at every meeting. So along the lines of they're responsible for choosing the facilitator. What if both the facilitator they've chosen and the central admin are missing from the meeting? Then we would have to have a like ad hoc process, right? For
Yeah. I mean, I think in that case we'd have to. I mean, it should still be on the CA to make sure, but obviously, like we're all people, we're all gonna fall short at certain points. So, but I also think like the stack method's simple enough that eventually, like someone could just step into it on the fly.
yeah, that's my point. I think we should all be able to step into this role, right? I mean, even if one person is the normal facilitator, it's probably important that we all understand and use, be trained in this way of doing it.
I think so, yeah, and it's I think it's good all around for the whole group to participate in it. We could even do something like the negative lottery. It doesn't have to be an incredibly intense selection process either. I have no clue how we should select it. That's why I kept that particular part very.
If we had like a poster for our meeting, I would put incredibly intense as like the, what the critics are saying. But I just wanted to add something because I actually think this is a really good idea. And I agree. I think the presenter is not a good idea, but I think like it should be really important. And of course, I think that's contemplated in what you said, but I think this is something that we should like reinforce. I think this person will have to have like, there's a decision. So they will have also to decide like if it's an like you ask a question for 3 minutes and then the person answers and then like, because there are also moments of like rapid fire dialogue that like it's a unity. So I think it will also be something that we will have to be aware, differentiating like a unity of a dialogue and like someone hogging the ball and like,
Yeah, I don't think that it can just be resolved by pure procedure. I think it's you start with the rules and then you make exceptions to the rules as opposed to letting people just. And by the way, it's not Gabriel directed. Myself and everyone else has done the same thing at various points. So I just think it's like, honestly, it's like innocent. Like everyone's stoked to talk and like, we're all passionate about this stuff, right?
But I do think that it's good to I mean, I don't think we need to be, I mean, at least for me, it's a good thing, and I don't think it's a bad thing to take it as an example. The whole central admin thing plus other procedures, they are useful tools to also shift, let's say, the organic centrality of some people away from them. That's what we're all into it to do. So looking at, okay, how can we decentralize things that are centralized and think about who are centralizing? It's not a problem. I'm up for being taken as a negative example as well. I'm honored.
Just not have this image of like a disgruntled like black and white picture of you and or like manual like the negative example.
But I think we should like praise ourselves at least, because this is not a problem due to people wanting to say like, the crazy lecture people who go into lectures and say, I have no questions. I only have how do you say this in English? Provocação.
Provocate.
Yeah, it's not it's like, when I want to tease you or I want to present something that might
provocative, like no.
Yeah, it's like a provocative interjection, like you go into someone like, I don't know, but that's not our problem.
Is that the
That's just-
word?
what?
Douchebags?
Yeah, they are douchebags.
I feel like that's the word.
Yeah. Is because I don't know how, because I think this is so like, well, it's a phrase that you hear so much in when you go to a conference here in Brazil. Someone will always stand up. They will always be the first person to ask a question because they don't care about anything. They're inside their own heads. And they will say, I don't really have any questions. I just have something to say that I was thinking. And then it's like, whatever, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely got this here too. I don't know if
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a specific word for it, but
Yeah. Because
Not
there's
yet.
a phrase they all use, which is provocação, which is, but, let's just tally that up to the untranslatable words with saudade. Okay, so do we have any more, does anyone have anything to add in regards to the second suggestion, which is actually the first? Okay, so the other suggestion we had, which was part of the third one, but I separated, is the idea to introduce the use of a centralized tool that integrates WhatsApp, Zulip, Google Drive, and potentially Zoom. I have a question, which is like, how does Slack integrate WhatsApp? How does that work?
The stuff we do on WhatsApp, we will start doing on Zoom.
Okay. Okay. I thought it was like an automatic integration.
But there is actually a Zapier application that you can send a WhatsApp message and it posts on Slack, but I don't know how to automate that.
Oh, but that could be a task for our chairperson.
Yeah, I guess I just don't see the point, because we had this issue with Zulip and WhatsApp. Like, if you're looking at one of them, you're probably not going to check the other one, right? So in this case, we're saying everyone should use Slack instead of these other tools. But can we really make everyone use that tool? Or, I mean, is it really more convenient? Or
There is one thing that it has
Fine.
that I think can make it more convenient, which is that it translates automatically every message. So we can have people speaking Portuguese and people speaking English, and they would be able to check. Like, there is an actual functionality that is useful for everything we do online, that if we move there, that problem is kind of greatly solved for the written part.
yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely worth it. Also, yeah, we can do chatbots in Slack, same as Zulip. So there's some opportunities there we could add, like for example, we could create a chatbot that you could create a meeting from within Slack without having to go to the website. You could just say, like, message the chatbot, say, I want to create a meeting for this date with this title. Things like that would be nice. But yeah, I guess the problem is we tried this with Zulip and not many people, but maybe Slack is easier to download on your phones and looks a bit nicer. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps it's not a good idea. I just think that the good thing we've done this year is that I think we've been trying for a good amount of months a WhatsApp structure, and it's been working. In fact, I'm not sure, like, we didn't do like a balance sheet of this experience, but it's been pretty interesting that it kind of works, right? And at the same time, the Zulip thing has been really cold. I mean, currently, I think only conversations with Alex Prehauser happened there. And there is one caveat to the STP community on WhatsApp, which is if there are groups in Portuguese, they are in Portuguese, and there's no way to make them more accessible, right? So the structure we created on WhatsApp community, we're imitating like a forum structure, right? We created streams on WhatsApp pretty much, or channels, right? So I have the impression that we allowed a certain form to be tested inside of WhatsApp, which is a bit of an ad hoc solution. It's not meant for that environment exactly. And now it seems that like if you have work groups in the same platform where you have general conversation, that kind of works, right? And if we're also, let's say, finding a way to keep track of active members, and somebody's also, let's say, kind of with the duty of making sure the organization is moving and so on, perhaps under those conditions, with the experience we have this far, another platform could work. Somebody also mentioned Discord as a possibility. I don't know, but yeah, I added a suggestion more as a thing that I think might be useful in the near future. Like, you know, I think we are doing the central admin thing. It was kind of, it started in a way with a discussion about, you know, what are the thresholds we're going to face as STP? And one thing we said was, we're going to grow to a point that if we don't separate people from functions, we're going to stall. It's going to be too personal, and it's going to be impossible to integrate, train, and so on. So I think the central admin and the WhatsApp community, they were both part of this impetus to facilitate decentralization, right? Many groups in parallel and so on. I'm just wondering if the Slack doesn't do a next step in the same direction. Plus, it already starts to deal with the next threshold, which is if we grow more, the next threshold is very likely to be language, right? So tools that facilitate translation, and even, as you said, decentralized administration of the website, like you can add bots and things like this, they seem to be, at some point, they will help us to cross thresholds, but perhaps it's too early, right? You kind of need to be close to a threshold to make certain tools relevant. Otherwise, they just seem like unnecessary additions, like unnecessary complication.
Yeah, I think I wasn't super sold on this until you mentioned the language thing, and now I'm 100% sold on it. Because I agree, that seems like our biggest obstacle at the moment. I think, yeah, so I'm totally on board. I think the thing that we have to commit to make it work is we have to have a time that we're going to shut down the WhatsApp group. We can't have them both open.
I agree.
Like archive it and save it as much as, and keep it accessible in some way, but actually phase it out. Otherwise, it'll never happen.
So I think it's a good idea in the sense that the translation tool and the ability to integrate would be very useful for the group as it grows. I think my concern is the same as Dennis, but I don't think like there's two steps to this. One question is, do we migrate from Zulip to Slack, and why? And I think like this is a decision that we can do. Like we can decide this as a group, like why are we going to this server, why to this, and like choose this. I think this is something. But I do think that like it would be good for the group if we like phased out of WhatsApp. But I think that would take I wonder if that can be done without, because since we are a small group, I wonder if that can be done without a voluntary commitment of not posting on WhatsApp, you know? There would have to be some discipline, like, okay, there's a discussion, because we've tried.
There wouldn't be a group to post on. We would close.
Oh, so we would end the group. Okay. No, if that's the thing, I think it's okay. Then I think the migration will happen.
Yeah,
And
again, we're just speculating on something somebody who would take the central admin position might look into, right? But
No. I think like if this is like we end the WhatsApp group, then I think it's a good idea, and I think like it's better than leaving it to it would solve the need for people to, and it would be also a good, I think, not a it would necessarily, I think, make people check. Maybe some people will temporarily disconnect from the group, but I mean,
the good thing about it also, I would say that the three things that it has, perhaps some other tool. I think that it's true. The translation tool on Slack is a paid one. It's not expensive, but it would be an expense. I think there are other softwares that do similar things, but the properties that this type of software has that I think is good is you can create what we currently have as separate groups, right? You have like a community plus something we would call either streams or channels or whatever. But besides the fact you can translate, so every conversation is available to everyone. There is the thing that Dennis mentioned, which I think is going to be really good, which is you can have channels which are meant for conversation, and you can have channels which are bots. They're just waiting commands. So you go into that channel and you write like meeting, name, and date, and it becomes an order to create a new meeting on our website. And you can have also command channels which are not automatic, but they're still informative. Like a stream that just says like, I want to create a meeting on the date, even if we don't have it automated. At least it only serves the purpose of, proposing meetings, and then people add them. Whoever is responsible adds it. So it would kind of make it more decentralized. Also, the access to the commands or website, or access to Google Drive and things like this. So but I'm not sure if Element has all those things. It might do.
But I do think that it's a good suggestion for the CA to look into, whoever they are, right? I mean, saying like this is the kind of thing, like seeing what kinds of groups, if it's a good idea to migrate completely and not doing just so I think it's a good thing. So does anyone have anything to add and relate to this second topic?
Yeah, by the way, the pro plan for Slack is not that cheap. It's about $9 per user. So for us would be 9 times 4, $360 a month. If that's correct, it might not be.
$9 per user.
Yeah, let me check.
Well, but I do think that the idea of having a translation could be good. Like searching for a system that has the translation features.
Yeah,
Maybe there's a translation bot that we can just pay the translation bot.
Yeah, maybe.
So, do we have does anyone have another suggestion to make in regards to the CA position? Well,
I think another thing I'd ask, just in case, because from what it's not. I think we have like 6 or 7 votes thus far. Everyone said no. I wonder if whoever said no and are in this meeting, if they want to clarify why they said no, just so we can. Let's say the case scenario, everybody says no. What would that say about the central admin idea. We might say something, you know, like, does it mean we're going the wrong direction?
Yeah, I voted no for myself, even though it was tempting, but it's a lot of, I don't want to take the chance away from somebody else who may want it. Plus, I think, yeah, since I've already done stuff on the website, I wanted to see if someone else could do that, the coordinating portion. Someone who's not already doing a lot of administrative tasks and
Yeah, that's
Also
pretty
because
much
it takes
my
time.
reason.
yeah.
I think my reason for saying no is, well, it's more of a personal reason. I think I, at least, unless everyone says no, so I think like if everyone says no, I probably say yes when it comes to my turn. I just don't think I'm in the right, like, you know, time frame. I'm not really in the point where I can take this position. Though I think that, like, of course, I think that it's something that is, for me, it involved like having like a mindset that, okay, so if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to dedicate a space of time. And I'm just personally taking a year off due to professional reasons, focusing on my new job this year. So that would be my reason. It's more of a personal reason than a group reason like Dennis and Gabriel, because I don't think I'm nearly as involved as they are.
And just one more point on that is, did we decide on the time period? Was that part of the?
No, I was going to bring that up
Okay.
before Gabriel suggested this, but I think we can finish this and then go to the time frame.
Okay, yeah, because that information will probably affect people's decision, right? On choosing yes or no because of the commitment of the time frame. Yeah.
Does anyone want to add anything, like reasons or not reasons? Well, the last point we have to decide on then, for this to be an uncharacteristically short meeting, is the time frame for the original position. We initially discussed it being an experimental position the first try, and we discussed between 3 and 6 months. So if we are discussing like on a monthly by month option, we'd have like 3, 4, 6, 5, and 6. And I don't think, I think maybe we could like put a vote also on it in the group with all these options and have it a week for the decision. I don't know if you have like, because there are like 8 people here, so I don't think it would be good if we decided on this, even though it was.
In the
It was
document, there
also-
was no mention to. I thought there was like. to
There was,
kind of-
there was a mention, yes. Go over the ideas, decide the time frame, and also when I put out the order. There was also the idea of determination of the period that the CP will work as CP. So we do have like this was communicated numerous times, no, but sufficiently. Please, John.
Yeah, so before I just to clarify before I say my point, it is the kind of options are between 3 and 6 months, right?
No, I think it's like, between 3 and 6. This is what we decided.
Okay. What I would suggest since it's still experimental and we don't have a lot of people, and also we don't really know, I would suggest we go with 3 months as a review period. Like regardless of what we decide we're going to review, both from the perspective of how the CA is handling it and then how like the rest of the group feels the process is going. And then even if we decide to make the position 6 months, we essentially have like a review and double or like affirmative, right? Because I think I mean, I just look at how much this conversation's evolved in the last 3 months. I feel that longer than 3 months is probably not the best lens from which to see the kind of changes. It may not make sense to actually change the administrator at that time, but I think we have to have a discussion with the idea that it's possible that we change the administrator. And I do think 6 months is too long to wait for that discussion.
I have a suggestion that could complement that, which would be we can have a 3-month review period. And then after that, sorry, a bicycle is, we could have a 3-month review period. And then if we decide that the full period will be 6 months or 12 months or 9 months, we could, if it's okay, we could subtract the 3-month review period. If like the person who's on, they can stay, or if we find it necessary, we can also change if the person wants to change. But we can also like work that in, like we have a review period to decide where we're going, but we have these options of complementing to compose a full term. If we decide the full term is like 6 months, the person could stay for another 3. And then we select a new admin. But I don't know if I would stay with 6. I mean, I think like I would go with 4. I don't know why, but I think 4 is maybe I think 3 months is like just too quick, but
It's a lot, 3 months, man.
maybe I'm just thinking the impending death.
So your, if I understood, your suggestion is even if we decide on a longer period, we do a 3-month review or a 4-month review anyway.
Is that for me or for John?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought somebody suggested that. So nobody suggested it. Okay.
No, no. What I suggested was just the folly, like, because John said, okay, so after we do the review period, does the CA change or not? And then I suggested, if we have a full period, like, okay, after 3 months, we'd say the CA will change each 6 months. Then we can let the CA that started do the remaining 3 months. That was only my suggestion. But I think that's something that will be decided at the review process. So I don't think it's.
Yeah, I think it could be done like as a simple thing, as in let's do something short because we're trying this out.
Yeah.
So no big commitment, like 3 months. And we have a review. And for this first review, because it's a special thing, if everything is going great, and I mean, this was an experimental period, that's why it was so short, we can extend it up if there's a agreement on that. You know, let's say the person says, oh, guys, you know, we planned this experiment in too short a time span. We actually need more time. So that's part of the revision. And then say, okay, so you have more time. Or no, the person says, man, this was a total catastrophe. I just want out. And then they're out.
No, I agree. And we could also think that it was not a good, like, it didn't work out. The group can also come to that decision. I agree. I think like 3 months, then experimental position. But we just have to contact the person who says yes for the transition period.
Yeah.
Because this is something that we decided upon.
I also wonder if we did wrong with having this list fully, like there is definitely, I mean, everyone who studies this kind of decision theory would say that listing the whole group at once and like having everyone just answer their own, but not seeing where they are on the list would be different. Because if you know everyone is voting and you know everyone's votes, or you know everyone hasn't voted yet, you might say, I'll wait until I see what everyone said. You know,
Some people can still do that.
and then like, who will be the first to say yes? Because if they say yes and they're at 22nd, if somebody who is before them was gonna say yes, they might not change their vote because somebody else said yes first.
Maybe we can just leave it like people can change their votes.
Sure, I'm just saying that the dynamics we created is a bit more complicated than simply streamlining the decision process. We actually
No,
created a self-referential thing.
No, this is something that I don't think it's like a. I think the idea was I agree that I think it would be best if we did this without this whole dynamic. But I don't think it's feasible with our level of quorum right now and the level of interaction that we've gathered. We could be stuck for more than we want. You know, waiting for an answer. So I mean, we could like contact people on a case by like the person responsible for the draw contacts people. This could be something.
Yeah, I think in the future, this list could be private, only you see it. Then
Only
you
the
message-
person who is doing it.
Yeah, then they contact everyone and says, do you want to do it, yes or no? And then they can say, what's my place in the list? Like, I'm contacting person in the order of the list. You don't need to know which the order is. It's just your turn. The person will assume everyone said no before them, but they don't know the next ones. Right now, people, when they decide yes or no, they kind of know things about the next people, which is not in itself a problem. It's just a different thing. I'm just saying that.
No, I agree. I agree. It's a different thing.
I just realized that now. I didn't realize it.
Yeah, but it also allows for the phenomena where we say no to let somebody else specifically who wants to do it
Yeah.
say yes. If we do this random blind trial, like where you don't know what everyone else is doing, then yeah, you can't really like elect people. Right now we're actually embedding an election system implicitly into it.
Yeah, when you say no, you're also saying yes to others. And we can actually kind of push it in the direction, you know, like of specific people, I guess.
I don't think we can, like, we can if we say no. I don't think, because that would be the case if you would change if you change what you would do based on what goes after you. Right? Like, if this was a blind experiment, would I say yes because I don't know who's coming after me? Or if a person I want to go is after me, but I like, you know, I don't know if there's much.
Yeah,
I do.
Perhaps there's not that much change. I don't know.
But I mean, I agree with what you said. Look, people would decide differently, but I also think that, like, you know, if you know who's after you, maybe you would, like, if there's some other people you know who are interested. I think that's why I said, like, if there was a second vote, like if the list was filled once and everybody said no, I would vote differently. But I think it's a different thing. John, please.
Yeah, a couple of things. Just before I comment on this, just to jump back, I agree with what Gabriel was saying about this time period being kind of like a novel one with the experiment. I think that that's kind of the approach we should take. I think one question, though, that we should start to consider is, what if, like, the CA is like, I can't do this before that time, right? Like, we should also have an awareness that, like, maybe they say yes, especially with our blind method, where it may be someone like hadn't really thought of it. They're like, actually, I'll try it, and they do it, and then like 6 weeks go by, and they're like, my life is a dumpster fire, and I can't do my jobs right. So I think we may actually need to go the other direction too, maybe not just elongating it, but also shortening it. I tend to agree with what Dennis just said about like the information that you get with this list. But I do think if we wanted to, we could go the other extreme fairly simply of writing a pretty short script where you basically just feed it all the lists. It would generate a list that none of us would see. And then what you'd do is you'd feed it all the answers. And then it would come back and give you the highest ranking person in the random list who said yes. No one would ever see anything, including the Raphael or whoever's administering it. It'd be completely blind to everyone. And you would just, so that could be one extreme, which would be very easy to like get up off the ground. I tend to agree that like having this kind of like downstream election option is better. But if the group comes around to wanting to push more randomness, I think we could do that fairly easily and make sure that it's 100% blind to all members, while still being like very easy to maintain integrity because it's fairly simple thing to write and fairly like anyone could look at it and be like, oh yeah, this is definitely random kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I think that's a good idea by John, but I think like if we do this method, since the CA, I think we've talked about the CA not being a continuous position, so they would not be in the list. So they could still do it because, but we can also do the completely blind method. That could be a. Maybe we should just like divide the group in two and test both methods, see what's the difference, see if more people say yes in one case or the other. We'd have to have like 1,000 members of STP for that to make a difference. Yeah, that's great. So Fatima put in a good question. Is there a vice CA? Two yeses could work together somehow. I think there I this is like my question for Fatima. Are you meaning like two people work together, one is like a backup?
I don't know. But the thing is, just to answer what John was talking about previously, that yeah, what happens if someone works for like 6 weeks and then go like, my life is collapsing, I can't do this anymore. Yeah, or like whatever other reason. So yeah, like maybe someone can be just like primarily taking the responsibilities, and the other is just trying to help and fill their place whenever there's one else absent. I don't know.
Well, I think first, this is not something. I think I'm a bit split because though I think it's a good question to take to the group, I think it would be something to be taken, like this is a question that would be good for a previous moment, right? I mean, this is something we should have discussed before putting this to a vote. So I mean, I think it's something that I'm a bit split because, but I do think, I don't know, that's just, please, John.
I think one way we could approach it without formalizing it, given what Raphael just said, would be to make it a pretty clear option for, if a CA, because we want this, whoever says yes, to give us like what they need. So we can make this like a clear thing that they could ask for, right? Like, I want a vice CA. And if that ends up working out, it could get institutionalized on the next round of like formalization processes. But we can kind of keep it as an open option for now. So if someone's like, yeah, I want this, but I definitely want some like consistent backup, then we can have a negative lottery for the vice CA. And then we could have a negative lottery for the vice CA, and then down until everyone's got a position. It'd be perfect.
Yeah, I think like that, but I think that adds like another variable to the experiment.
Can't we just say, sorry guys, I don't know, listen, like, let's say there's more than one person saying yes to this list. That sounds to me that, let's say, all right, in case that there's a problem with the current central admin, rather than just starting a new lottery ad hoc whenever needed, we can go to the second person who said yes in the order and say, hey, do you want to take up the task because the first person is no longer there, right? Or if the first person said that they want help, we can say, hey, do you want to enlist the person who was below you who also said yes to the task? Like, I don't think that these ideas go against what we already did. It's just a way of benefiting from the fact that we already did the list with more, potentially more yeses than just one.
No, I think
So,
that's
right. I mean, if it happens, I don't think we need to like already have a second chair before we even choose the first. We don't know how the person, I mean, the idea is that the person will delegate tasks anyway, right?
yeah, I think this is closer to what we discussed, right? The CA will have the like a decision to. I think it was John when you were, well, I just said that. I think what Gabriel said sums a bit of it, which is like, well, in the current process, there's nothing that stops the person who is CA from them choosing someone else to work with. And of course, if we have another person, other people who say yes, it makes sense to work with the people who say yes. So I think that makes a lot of sense. But I don't know if we should like institutionalize it, because this is something that I think like, oh, we have to have a, but I do think like, of course, if the life is a dumpster fire, if the person's life is a dumpster fire, it makes sense that instead of doing another draw, we just go to the next person. You know, next person up. Yeah, that's a good case for keeping the list public. It
Yeah,
won't be
true.
like a surprise. Hey, look whose turns it is to take the wheels. Mm. But I don't know, Fatima, if that contemplates, but that's where when you were out of for Lebanon electricity.
Okay, I have a question. So the research coordinator will be working by themselves, or like, because now I'm thinking of like having a CA, a research coordinator, and maybe someone to help them out. But yeah, you said that we wouldn't rather institutionalize it. So
Sorry, I was
yeah,
confused. Did you mean the CA or the research coordinator? Because the idea is to have both people separately.
Yeah, I'm thinking about having both people separately and like somebody to give them a hand, or like to be
Yeah, but the i-
coordinating with them if they need anything. I'm not
Yeah, but
sure.
the idea is that the whole group would help. They would just be responsible. That doesn't mean they do everything alone.
Hmm,
So it's the
Okay.
idea that they are responsible for how we do things. If they decide to delegate and say, I'm responsible, I'm delegating this function to Fatima, that should be fine.
Okay.
So
As long as the person is fine, of course.
yeah, of course, yeah. It's not so much of a function that's why we went early on, we tried to have this conversation. Like, we shouldn't think about the central admin as somebody who's going to do everything. It's a person who is responsible for thinking about the logistics. If their decision is that they need help to execute the task, if they need someone else to do it, if they want everyone to do it, you know, or whatever, that's fine. They just need to take a look at the whole and see what's the path they think is best. It's not necessarily just being like a secretary for the group, right?
Mhm.
And I also think this is like, this is something that I think it's good to have like one person having like, okay, this person has to see the whole, because I mean, they won't be able to like, okay, so someone, no, I will have to see the whole, even if I don't do everything. I think it's going to be very good for the management of the group as a whole, because some things will come up, I think, which maybe probably the person won't be able to do everything by themselves. And I think this will be like, the person will also have like a, because maybe if they're like, oh, we have like like if we have like institutionalized, oh, two people, there will be a CA and a vice CA. And I think like maybe that makes us, it makes it like in a sense as if those two people have to solve everything and deal with everything. And I don't think that's the case. I think like, but I mean, I do think that we might find out that things work totally contrary to what we are thinking, and I think that's part of the experiment, right? Why we're having a time frame. Please, Dennis.
Yeah, just a general comment on things like this, because from what we've experienced whilst trying to decide on the CA/RC thing, it seems like decisions that require everyone's input and everyone's approval, they're very costly to make for us as a group. Like this one, it's been hard to, you know, finally pin down everything that we wanted and then everyone vote and agree. And so I think for most decisions we make as a group, they should be like given to one person or fewer people, right? Subsets of the subset, because it should be rare that we all have to agree and vote on a decision. Just, I don't know, I'm just thinking just from
Yeah.
a efficiency standpoint.
Yeah, I do think that it is something to ponder, you know, the level of, I mean, I think you're touching on something that perhaps needs to be better integrated as it's not a bug, perhaps it can be a feature, a positive feature, which is there was a lot of resistance to certain things, and there was at least explicit resistance to certain procedures once they were thought, but not necessarily in like this doesn't translate into high engagement with proposing new things, right? So what we can read this as like a free rider kind of situation where, you know, people want to take part into things that are being built without effort, but then they want to kind of mention when it's not going the way they intend. But we can also read it more positively in the sense that perhaps this is a sign that our more natural culture, for one reason or another, is one where we just do things and have good mechanisms for people to block it if it's not on their direction, rather than, you know, active commitments to construct. You can have things where people are just constructing and they go, and if that construction is, let's say, somebody has something against it, then they have mechanisms to make that known without the commitment or expectation that this means they want to do something instead, because sometimes they don't, right? Of course, like there should be a way of doing it where it's not so cheap to say no to a procedure that just one person saying no blocks everything, because, you know, there are so many things that take time and getting used to, and sometimes you have an opinion and then you change it, that just your immediate no blocking something might not be the best. But I don't know, there might be some lesson there that we still haven't found a way to integrate fully. Like we did say many times, you know, like try to make all the tools we have available so people can propose their things, come up with parallel stuff, but the things we're discussing now, they're very centralized, right? They supposedly have to do with the group as a whole, and they're meant to sort out problems that affect everything we do in one way or another. So, but I don't know, perhaps there is something we didn't consider in that way. I think the very fact that, you know, like if you compare the amount of people that commented and who commented on the problems with the first attempt at installing the central admin, and the amount of comments and proposals for the construction of the second proposition, it's quite uneven, right? So maybe that's not a problem. Maybe that's some feature of working the way we do that we haven't really kind of caught up to properly yet, you know. And there might be a better way to feed off of that and to use it in our favor rather than work against it, you know. Because I agree, it's clearly very costly just to get 20 people to vote on a WhatsApp group.
Yeah, I feel like what you're saying is we mostly vote against things we don't like. We raise objections more than we vote for things, right? We wait until something looks wrong and then we say, okay, this looks we don't like this, we should change this. But it's been, yeah, it's not our style so far to propose like grand experiments or projects and then have everyone vote on them. So this is the first case of that.
Yeah.
See,
I just wanted to say something just before I pass along, because this reminds me of, I think I spoke with Rafa about this, not sure. But a couple of weeks ago, there was this militant who was staying at my house. He works with a lot of indigenous movements in Brazil. And his critique is that communist militants today are trying to reinvent procedures that are actually as old as time for a lot of indigenous communities. And he mentioned this idea that some indigenous tribes do, which is, let's say you have some basic constructions in your settlement, right? If you want to create a new one, the authorization to do the new thing is just getting people to follow you, because you need other people to do it. You can't do it alone. Well, if you got other people to create something new, the very fact you got them to go along with you is proof that you are authorized to do it, unless you want to destroy something that was already done. In that case, you need the chief's approval. So destruction requires collective decision. Like, I want to undo something we've done. Well, everyone needs to pitch in. You cannot decide this on your own. I want to add something new. Well, if people go along, it will survive. If people don't go along, it won't survive. You don't need anyone to decide that for you. The consequences will decide, you know? It sounds to me like it has a bit of that idea of, if, you know, you need mechanisms to guarantee the protest if you're stepping on something that is precious to others. But you don't need mechanisms to guarantee everyone is on board if you're doing something which is going in parallel or adding to what already is there. And I mean, they even have a way of overthrowing the chief, which is, let's say you want to construct something that destroys a crucial part of the tribe. If in that process, everyone tags along, minus the chief, that means you're the new chief. Because, you know, the effective construction trumps the chief's power, because there's no one with the chief he's representing that you're not. So I don't know, it just sounds like the type of intuition that has something to do with what you said. Sorry to bring this anthropological trivia to the.
John, before I'm not going to say what I was going to say. I just wanted to compliment, because I thought Gabriel was going to mention another story that had to do with decision. Is that there was like a whole meeting with a bunch of people from different spaces, and there were also, I think there were like also white representatives. Bless you. There were white representatives, white in the sense it's not indigenous or black, of black communities, and then they were discussing the issues and everything, and then like in the middle of the meeting, one of the chiefs, he got like a soccer ball, football, and he said, "Hey, it's playing time." And then everybody went out running and playing, and then the place evaporated, everyone disappeared. And then like a few moments later, you would see all the chiefs smoking pipe together in a different room and deciding, because that was just like for show for some people, for people who are estranged from these processes, which have their own logic and which are not necessarily, I thought you were going to mention, but what you said was way better. But sorry, John, I just had to add
That's all
that.
good. And I think that those are really good examples. I'm glad you brought them up before I spoke, because they make the case that like, and this goes back to something we were talking about earlier discussions of this conversation, just like I'm pretty sure every member of this group has been burned by the left, and we live in a dystopia. So like most of our decision procedures are about keeping bad people from getting power, right? Both inside the left and supposedly outside. And so I think we're really taking a leap of faith in this method of trying not to make that the basis of our decision-making process, right? Like we're trying to be open. And what Gabriel said, I think really hits the nail on the head, right? Like so much indigenous organizing has political experimentation built in. It's not some revolutionary idea. It's like, oh, you want to try something? Cool. Will it work? We'll see. I don't know. Fucking try it. And I think that like a lot of when I wanted to write about the stack thing, part of what kept me from just publishing immediately was like how much I feel like we're on the verge of like making much more tangible the idea of political experimentation. Like we've done a lot of theory for it, but I do think that that attitude of like we need to be open to the being open to people just doing things. But I would say to kind of also root that back to Fatima's question about the vice CA is we also have to look at the results up to now, right? Which is we have this conversation because Gabriel, Dennis, and a few other people have been stuck doing admin work for the last couple of years. And like, it's not just because we're having all these conversations and these discussions doesn't automatically mean that the CA is going to have the support. So I think that there will be a certain amount of political like work to be done, campaigning or whatnot, if you will, to build up the structure, the support and everything, which I don't think it's not a ready-made answer once we choose the person. But I do think we are all kind of getting out of the anxiety of like letting that openness be the case. And it's a challenge. I mean, I deal with it all the time. Like this is a very uncomfortable process a lot of times, but I do think that it's the correct one.
Yeah, I guess to say, I also think that I think you said it all, man. Like, I think we should I don't think that there are many collectives that try to come up with, I mean, I hope there are many, but even if there are, it's still special that, it is pretty special to come up with procedures for not trying to just block power from evil people, but, making power something that can be a positive surprise to people. I mean, I think that's the motto behind this. Like, and if there are people watching this meeting later on, I mean, it's already too late because they're to get this this message. Perhaps they're not going to watch 2 hours of this, but if there's something to think about, is like we're trying to lower the cost of saying yes. That's the whole point, right? Not raise. The whole point is to lower the cost for people who would usually think it's not something they can do. So I think that this is the motto behind this whole process, to make it easier for people who wouldn't regularly say yes to this position or to the research coordinator position later on, to occupy the position, see how it is, right? And so lower the costly aspects of it. Am I going to do it alone? Are people expecting too much? Am I going to have to know everything? We're trying to mitigate those things in many ways. We're trying to give them a chance to have their name considered without condescension, because they're just being treated equally because of randomness in the order, right? That's why I felt like that there is something about the order being public that we can twist the weights a bit and make it a bit less random, because we can say no ahead of time and actually reduce the number of people. But it's not a problem, but it's just to consider. I think that this is really the thing we're trying, right? So there's reason to be excited about this, and if people feel put on the spot, we're doing something wrong, because the idea is to, I think, relieve the function of the super egoic thing, that only if you have this and that quality you can do it. The idea is, no, you don't need to have any special quality. You just need to say yes, and then we're all gonna pull together the qualities you need, right? Yeah, I agree. Lower the cost of saying yes. I mean, that's a existential communism, right? Yeah, take that, Nietzsche. Who imagined that, there could be a collective solution to the Ubermensch? So there you go.
I think I'd just like to add that I do think we have, this is important for us to recognize, and I think the too burned by the left is the negative motto, and so that we can lower the cost of saying yes, because I do think that when we check our processes, I think like when I took upon this process specifically, because it was something like, it's something very small in the grand scale of things. It's like not really complicated. It's not like we are not giving the power for someone to completely trash and destroy the group. But I think it was, there was like a moment where it's like, well, okay, so if this is terrible, if it crashes and burns, fuck it. I mean, it's not gonna change. It's not a big deal. So, we have to kill the big other, because I do think that, in a sense, because we've been too burned by the left, I do think that we tend to skew too much towards equality and not too much towards freedom and emancipation. And I'm saying this not because I was actually reading stuff by the guy. I was reading stuff by the guy that Gabriel mentioned, and he was just talking about it. I found it curious. And I think it's the same idea, like, we have to think of processes that outskew the fact that we have a tendency to, like, the cost of saying no is very low. So, I mean, there's these two sides. The cost of saying hi is yes, of course, but we also have to consider, as we've talked about it here, that the cost of saying low is also it's the contrary. It's like, it's too low. It's very cheap to say no. And I think, like, there's a space of experimenting where, like, okay, so if we see that saying yes is not too high, I think it's important that we learn what decisions are to take to the group, what decisions are not to take to the group, and also consider the fact that at least at our current scale, all decisions are very easily overturned. I mean, people simply just don't have to follow them. It's like it's very easy. So I think that in a sense, this is something we have to consider, because I don't think there's a binding structure in a sense that someone would be able to like take it all in and simply do things as they wish. I don't think we are at that point. There's no institutional structure that allows that, I think. So I think that in a sense, like the freedom to experiment is also very important for the person who's taking on. And it will probably lead to very different forms of CA-manship, chairpersonship, or whatever. But I think, man, I think that's, yeah. I think that's something like, depending on how the group grows, there are some questions that we will have to consider. But I think at our current stage, this might be putting the wagon before the horse.
The cart before the horse, I think.
The cart. Oh, a wagon's a. But yeah. So, do we have any other comments? Any other? And just to, and I think like the research position and the CA position, and I think like one good goal for the group, and I agree, I think that could be the, like it's a good admin motto. We could put it in the suggestion for the CA, that lowering the cost of saying yes, of doing stuff, because what is centralized, I don't think what is centralized is power in any sense. I think what is centralized is like the ability or the capacity to say yes or to do stuff, to see that there's no right way, in a sense. I don't know. I'll stop before I get too existential, but at least not a Nietzschean.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, can I just disagree with one thing you and I think John to some extent, but you said it more. I do think that the costs are uneven in the group. I do feel it's easier for me to propose things, and it doesn't matter if it is because I kind of build it. I know for other people it's also easier, like it's not just me and then everyone on uneven, like there's a very uneven terrain. Some people are just joining now, some people joined in the past but didn't engage very much. Some people, like, so it is a different thing.
Yes.
I do think that there is a reason for this that is deceiving, which is things that involve theory mixed with things that involve a lot of people. I think that they create this kind of obscurity where, because knowledge is this infinite thing, like you can never tell when you know enough, right? And actually, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. So it's like this bottomless thing. So the moment that you don't know if you're authorized or not, and you start looking at knowledge to see if you have the authority or not, it becomes this abyss where you're never there yet. Like you should know more before you can do this and that. So I think that there is a vicious mechanism, like a vicious circle, where some things are not clear because they're hard to make clear, because you don't know everyone in the group. So you don't know what they're up to. You can't really come up with projects because you don't know if people already accept. You feel vulnerable to propose things. What if they don't want to do it, and so on? So it creates kind of a black box. Who would be up for things, and who can I propose things to, and is this for me, this thing they're proposing or not, and so on. And then in this particular type of group, you can fill that black box with expectations about theory and knowledge. You can say, well, only those who know, those who with this or that can do. I think that we're trying to, that's why we need central admin and research coordinator, people who can open both black boxes. Like, there is one person you need to go to and they will help you clarify what is going on, and another person you will go to will help you about with the things that we're doing, like theory wise, to help empty out those fantasies. But I do think that currently it's not a matter of power per se, in the sense that, you know, somebody has like wishes this authority and manipulates things so that they keep that authority. But I do think that this is still the challenge, to undo these black boxes that I'm sure go through everyone's mind. It goes through my mind, so I'm sure it goes through everyone as well. Like, okay, I don't know what's going on. Am I inside enough that I can propose something, or will I just make a fool out of myself? Or do I know enough to propose this, to spearhead this, to ask this question? So it's still the same challenge, I think, to undo that things. And I do think it's not clear yet. I mean, I think that it would be good, though very embarrassing probably, to actually have a day dedicated to mapping this out, how people feel and where they are in this uneven terrain, you know. I'm not sure. I think the central admin thing can do a lot, but it might be the case, just by looking at the fact that everyone said no this far, and it's not obvious who will say yes, that this parallel problem of these black boxes and that we infuse with some idea or expectation of who is allowed and who is not, it might even influence the voting itself, right? So part of lowering the cost of the yes and no, I think it's cognitive, in the sense of not allowing these black boxes to work against people. So I don't know, it's just something that I think it's worth consider. We are trying to reverse a trend that, if we let it work on its own, is gonna, against anyone's wish, increment the facility for some people to operate and increment the difficulty for others, right? Like, it's not a flat ground that we're starting from. We're working against something. I think we're feeling a resistance of a dynamic, right? I think that's my point. Like, it's not, I think that's there is an enemy. There is a dynamic we're trying to undo, right?
I think this uneven ground is, I think that's the meaning, at least for me, of at least what I understood from John also. Lowering the cost of yes, I think it's dealing with this independently of the reasons for the different. I think the idea of the black boxes, I think this is what I think is important when lowering the cost of saying yes, because it's not simply, it's neither assuming we are all from an equal position, nor expecting that there will be an equal position, because I don't in a flat, I don't think it's a matter of that.
Yeah, no, I just feel like it's a good opportunity to describe this, you know, like, there is a dynamic that if we don't do anything, it will work against some in favor of others. There is an added problem, which I'm not sure if everyone feels this, but by now the meeting is almost over. It's hard to get a feel for it, but I feel like, because it's already easier for some to address some things than it is for others, the fact that solutions to problems of unevenness come from some people rather than others sometimes confirms the feeling of unevenness rather than undo it. So you see my point, like, rather than emptying out the feeling, oh, we're doing the central admin thing, we're doing a lottery, it's clearly meant to include everyone,
but it's
being proposed by Rafael, Gabriel, John, you know. So it's actually, the first moment of this looks like it's using the unevenness, and it's trying to use it to undo it, but it is a problem. I mean, I think that's, for me, the main reason why we need a formal protocol for this, is because personal attempt to undo personal preference is reinforcing that personality rather than undoing it, right? So it's the classic, it's not a humble brag, but it's the kind of structure of the humble brag where, you know, like the teacher's in front of the students and says, I'm here to learn with you. Yeah, but only the teacher can say that. So the moment that you like remove the authority, you're reinforcing it. So nothing that comes from this dynamic, from inside the dynamic, is going to undo it. The only thing is something that kind of imposes something from kind of outside, and then people can kind of admit it or agree to it, right? Something like that. I don't know. It's just, I mean, there is this complication. I think it's useful to think about it.
No, I agree. I think it was very well put. So does anyone have any remaining comments? I wish I had a hammer like to do going once, going twice, sold. Well, everyone, thanks a lot for coming, for participating, for discussing. I think it's very, yeah, thanks. It's very, I'm very happy that I think we've managed to do this, to make a decision. And I think like a lot of really good issues for the group, both practically and theoretically, came up. And I think we can set, I will overview the end of this process, we'll communicate. I don't think we need a new meeting like when the CA is, it's not a, I don't think we have to do a ceremony or anything. But I think after the transition is finished, or we at least have it plotted out, we can schedule our 3-month review. And I think it will be good, and I will remind everyone that everyone tries to, like, you know, be attentive to what's happening, because I'm very certain that many issues will come up, not hostile issues, but issues that are bound to come up, because we start talking, issues start arriving, and this is why we are happy together. Okay, so everyone, very good night to all of you, and we'll be seeing you, most of you, I hope, next week on the next presentation. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.